Are you looking for the best pre-built gaming PC 2021? Maybe you're having a frustrating time building your own PC given how crazy the PC parts market is. Maybe you don't want to build a PC, you just wanted to get something for Battlefield 2042 coming up or Call of Duty Warzone. Whatever the case, we're going to go through what you need to focus on when buying a pre-built gaming PC and go through specific product recommendations to get you gaming at 1080p, 1440p, or 4K and getting the best deal possible on pre-built gaming PCs in 2021. Coming right up. Hi, welcome back to PC Builder. I'm Jason. I'm really excited. We are going to update the video I did at the very beginning of the year, which is Best Pre-Built Gaming PCs 2021. And we're going to update it here in the middle of the year because so much has changed, both in terms of the pricing, but as well as the pre-built market itself. We're going to go through some of that. We're going to identify what are the key factors that you need to be thinking about when buying a pre-built gaming PC. And then we're going to go through specific product recommendations at every resolution level. We'll start off at 1080p, we'll jump up to 1440p, and we'll finish off at 4K. And don't worry, for those of you who also are thinking about how do you do video editing and other kinds of productivity tasks, in addition to your gaming PC, we'll add in little bits here and there just for you. Of course, that's what this channel is all about. It's about getting you the best price to performance in your PC. Whether that's a laptop, a pre-built, or you're building your own, that's what we're here for. So remember, like the video, especially if you get value out of it. It really does help out the channel. We're growing really rapidly. And of course, if you want to join us, come on in. The water's fine. Click that subscribe button and the bell icon. That way you get notified when we go live. With that, let's jump into it. Let's start off by talking about where do you even buy a good pre-built? And in fact, the best gaming pre-built PC 2021, right? That's what we're after here. Well, there's a couple of different places. Let's start off really quickly with the terminology. You're going to hear two terms used in the pre-built gaming PC market. You're going to hear the term OEM, which stands for Original Equipment Manufacturer, and you're going to hear the term SI, or System Integrator. What the heck do these things even mean? And do they matter to you as somebody who just wants to buy a pre-built gaming PC? They actually do. So OEMs are companies like Dell, they're companies like HP, Lenovo, Acer. These are companies that actually manufacture their own parts, or at least have their parts manufactured in a branded way. So for instance, when you buy a Dell or an HP, you're going to get a graphics card in there that's manufactured and branded as an HP graphics card. It's not a card by MSI or any of the recognizable board partners that you would typically buy off the shelf and put into a custom PC that either you built or somebody else built. On the other hand, the system integrators, they take universally available parts from the DIY PC market. This will be maybe an MSI graphics card, maybe it'll be a gigabyte power supply or motherboard, and they'll assemble those parts into a computer. They don't actually manufacture anything. So what you often find is that the OEMs may use proprietary parts. That's parts that are specifically designed for their builds that you can't necessarily pull out and use into a different build if you want to down the line, rebuild it in a new case with maybe an upgraded processor or something of that nature. So just know there's basically two kinds of buyers here. If you're the kind of buyer who is never going to tear your computer apart, move it to another case, do all that stuff, if you just want to turn the thing on, have it game and be awesome, then you can buy from either an OEM or a system integrator. If you are the kind of person who is going to want to tinker with their PC, pull it apart, you're going to want to maybe swap out the graphics card, you're going to maybe swap out the motherboard, put in more memory, then I would recommend you buy something from a system integrator. And I'm going to leave a list of OEMs and system integrators down in the description, along with, as we go through the recommendations, I'll let you know whether or not this is an OEM or a system integrator. Really quickly, there is a difference between a custom-built PC, that is where you get to select every single component from a list of components that are available to the system integrator, and a pre-built PC where they're just going to basically parts out something. Depending on what parts they have, they might tell you you're going to get a B550 motherboard. They're just not going to tell you which B550 motherboard you're going to get, so on and so forth. So I believe the best value, at least in this market right now, with prices being somewhat inflated due to the graphics card market, I still believe right now the best value is pre-built gaming PCs, and I know that we can find some good ones, but if you want ultimate control of your PC, including exactly what components go into it, buy a custom-built gaming PC from somebody like Origin or CyberPower PC or iBuyPower. That way you get to control everything. You're going to pay a price premium for that. It's going to be more expensive than if you just went with a similar pre-built gaming PC. Now, some people would argue, well, you're going to get a higher quality of part. I would ask, are you going to get more performance though? So these are things for you to think about. I still think that for the vast majority of the market, the pre-built gaming PC is absolutely where you want to be, and that's the amount you want to spend. Of course, you can't have the best pre-built gaming PC 2021 if you don't have the right graphics card to play at the resolution that you want to play at. So I'm breaking out all the product recommendations that are down in the description. They're going to be broken out by 4K, by 1440p, and by 1080p. And obviously, anything that can play 4K can also play 1440p, and so on and so forth. So check out those links down in the description, which, by the way, as with the last video, I'm going to continuously update every couple of days to just have the best deals. So if you see some things missing from this video, that means they've probably gone out of stock, and I will replace them with an equivalent deal, because that's just the nature of the pre-built market in 2021. Things come in really quickly, they go out, they don't come back, or maybe they come back 5 months later. I'm going to keep updating this. So what resolution do you want to play at? Well, it's going to be based on how much you have to spend. If you want to play in 4K, you're going to need to get a GPU that's a RTX 3090, an RTX 3080 or 3080 Ti, a 3070 or a 3070 Ti, or on the AMD side, you're going to want an RX 6900 XT, a 6800 XT, or an RX 6800. For 1440p gaming, you're looking kind of more in the mid-range. You're looking at the RTX 3060 and above, and you're looking at an AMD RX 6700 XT and above. And then, of course, on the 1080p level, we're still using older generation GPUs here. So you're going to see a lot of RX 570s and 580s, although decreasing amounts because those cards are going away. But you'll see like a GTX 1650 Super, a GTX 1660, 1660 Super, and 1660 Ti. Sandwiched in there is, of course, the RTX 2060, and that kind of just straddles between high-end 1080p and 1440p, depending on the game. Very quick warning. There are a lot of pre-built gaming PCs right now because there's such a shortage of graphics cards where the system integrators or OEMs are just slapping in total garbage graphics cards into the PC, and they're selling it as a gaming PC. You're going to regret buying these. They are going to have extraordinarily poor performance, and you're going to wonder what the heck you just spent your money on. Yes, they're going to be a little bit cheaper, but you will have burned your money instead of saved your money. And these cards include the GT710, the GT730, the GT1030, and things like the RX 550 and the RX 560. You are going to be better off buying an APU, that's a CPU that has integrated graphics like a Ryzen 5600G in a pre-built PC, and I'll include one of those in the product recommendations so you know what I'm talking about. I just want you to avoid the garbage graphics card. You want something that's at least one of the graphics cards I've already mentioned, RX 570, RX 580, the GTX 1650 Super, not the non-super, or better, or an RTX card, or one of the RX 6000 or 5000 series cards. That's it. All right, let's talk about what CPU, and then we'll talk about what RAM and how much of it you need in your gaming PC, and then we're going to jump right into the product recommendations. So really quickly, I'm not as concerned about the CPUs right now. I'm mostly seeing, after studying very intensely the pre-built market for the last 8 months, I'm mostly seeing Ryzen 3000 CPUs. I'm seeing now Ryzen 5000 CPUs are online as well. I'm also seeing Intel 10th generation and 11th generation chips. I am seeing a couple of 9th generation, but they're fine. They tend to be i5s and i7s. All of that is absolutely fine. I'm not seeing any garbage tier things that I would be concerned about. I will warn you though, if you're gonna get an Intel system, I'm not saying don't buy an Intel system, but if you're gonna get one that's like an i7 or an i9, just make sure it has enough cooling for the system because those CPUs tend to run hot, and a lot of the system integrators are putting coolers on them that are undersized. And what's going to happen is the CPU is going to thermally throttle. It's going to throttle the performance of your PC. You may not even realize it's going on, but it will be happening. So I just want to warn you in advance. I am going to recommend some Intel systems because there are some really good ones out there right now for pre-built gaming PCs, but they tend to be ones with liquid cooling or significant cooling for the CPU. How much memory RAM do you need? Well, I strongly recommend at least 16 gigabytes for gaming. Now, on the ultra low end, you're not going to get that if you spend less than $900. And right now, the ultra low end is the hardest to find a gaming PC. I have a couple recommendations for you, but they are only going to have 8 gigabytes of memory. That will impact your gaming performance. However, you should be able to, down the line, buy a 16 gigabyte kit and swap out that existing kit. On the higher end, of course, if you want to do high-end video editing or other kinds of productivity tasks, or maybe you want to stream your gameplay to a service like Twitch, I'd recommend looking at getting 32 gigs of memory. Now, of course, for most of the pre-built, you're not going to find 32 gigs in a system until you get to about the $3,000 price point, maybe $2,800 or something like that. That's just one of the challenges of the market. Just know that even if you buy something around $2,000, you could probably spend another $120 later on down the line, get a 32 gigabyte kit, and simply swap out your old kit for that one. Final word about the PC case itself. This is something that most buyers pay no attention to. They're looking for flashy RGB. They're looking for glass side panels. Those things are all real cool, and you can get them and still get a decent cooling solution. Why does cooling matter? Because if you don't have good airflow from the outside through your case and expelling the hot air out, your PC may thermally throttle, either the graphics card or the CPU, possibly the VRMs. It can both throttle your performance, but it also can do damage long-term to your PC, and you're spending hard-earned money on that. You don't want that. You can get the same amount of performance with something with good airflow. So what are you looking for? You're looking for potentially mesh is the best. If you can get something with a mesh front like this right here, that's great. I love liquid cooling for this because it really does concentrate expelling the hot air out of the case. Side slits on the front panel are okay-ish, but you typically want to just make sure it's got enough intake and exhaust fans, and it's clear that the intake fans are actually able to intake air, and they're not just sitting behind a pane of glass. I see that all the time in pre-built, and I just want to go crazy on somebody. Why would you put fans behind a glass case? You can't suck air through glass. All right, let's jump into the product recommendations. Remember, links are down in the description. Those links are affiliate links. They do benefit the channel through a very small commission that we earn. You don't pay that. The retailer pays that. We greatly appreciate it. It allows us to do all kinds of great content here. And when things go out of stock, and they have a lot in the pre-built market, and you might see something down there that, oh, hey, it's in the video, but it's not in the list. That's because I've replaced it with something that's in stock that's an equivalent value for you. With that, let's go. We're going to kick off with an absolute beast of a gaming PC and something that would be amazing also for content creation, which is the Skytech Prism 2 Gaming PC. It's got a Ryzen 7 5800X with an RTX 3090, 32 gigabytes of relatively fast memory, 3600 Trident Z Neo kit. It comes with a 1 terabyte Gen 4 SSD. I don't think you need a Gen 4 drive, but it comes with one. So, hey, if they're throwing it in for free. It does come with an X570 motherboard. As I've said until I'm blue in the face, you don't need X570, but if they're going to give it to you for free, why not? 850 watt gold power supply. And it comes with a 360 millimeter all-in-one liquid cooler. That's the radiator right here, as well as a Lee & 011 case, which I think is one of the coolest cases out there. So if you're looking for a showcase build, if you're looking for an amazing gaming PC for anything, and you want to be able to also do some incredible content creation, because the 5800X with the RTX 3090 and 32 gigs of memory, that's going to do some wonders right there, then this is probably the PC for you. Now this is $4,000. Note that at this price point, you could easily go get a custom PC built. I don't know if you can get similar specs for this. The RTX 3090 is most of the cost of the machine, but you can get close. So you might want to go check that out. However, I'm very confident that you will not be able to beat this price for these kinds of specs. So if this is the level that you're looking for, then here you go. If that's a little too rich for your blood, but that's kind of the neighborhood you're looking in terms of performance, also check out the two other variants of the Skytech Prism 2. This is the RTX 3080 Ti version, where all the same specs, except it's got 16 gigabytes of DDR4 3200 speed memory, and an RTX 3080 Ti for about $3,500. Or if you're looking for something that's all AMD and you want to get a Radeon RX 6900 XT with that nice big 16 gigabytes of memory for about $3,500 instead, check out the other version of this. Again, links down in the description. This maintains the 32 gigabytes DDR4 3600 RGB memory. The only difference is they swap in a 6900 XT instead of the 3090. So dropping down in price, still at Amazon here, we've got the Skytech Kronos Gaming PC. Now this is a Ryzen 9 3900X, that's 12 cores, 24 threads, third generation Ryzen with an RTX 3080, 16 gigabytes of memory, 1 terabyte Gen 4 SSD with an X570 motherboard, and a 360 millimeter all-in-one liquid cooler encased in a really nice airflow mesh case. I love the airflow in this thing. Overall, this will give phenomenal performance, somewhat on par with maybe the 3080 Ti model I just showed you for $3,500. I believe this one typically comes with the same motherboard. Although, again, remember, the pictures you see here, they use whatever parts are available. They're just promising you an X570, although they are promising, in this case, 3600 CL16 memory that's Trident Z Neo, which is great. It does have Wi-Fi. There's not much more to say other than I have compared to, like Thermaltake and Corsair and all the other various brands, iBuyPower. Skytech tends to have, in this price range, the best price to performance. We are going to see some other ones coming up, and I just want you to know I'm not sponsored by any of these folks whatsoever. I'm just, right now, Skytech is kind of killing it in this range of PCs. So of course the Kronos also has steps down. The next step down in the Kronos line is to get one with a Ryzen 7 3700X and an RTX 3070. This is still going to be a phenomenal performer, still 4K capable in most games. Certainly high level 1440p capable as well. 16 gigs of DDR4 3200 memory, still 1 terabyte NVMe. This comes with a B550 motherboard, and frankly, I like this B550 motherboard better than I probably do the X570, just because the budget range X570s I think don't have as good VRMs and other things as the B550s. I know that seems like it should be the other way around, but that's the way it is. You do lose the all-in-one liquid cooler here, but you pick up the very capable AMD Wraith Prism cooler, which also looks really cool, by the way. So overall, I think if you're looking for to be able to play games in 4K or high-level 1440p and not spend a bundle, this is a great option for you. Really quickly, let me show you a PC that I actually want you to avoid, and I want you to avoid these types of PCs. The specs look great, right? Intel i9 11900KF, 32 gigs of memory, great. Radeon RX 6900 XT, fantastic. 1 terabyte. What's wrong with this thing, Jason? Specs look great. Where is the airflow on this thing? The 11900KF is might as well be a nuclear reactor, okay? Now, look at this case and you tell me where the airflow happens. This is all glass. Now, maybe there's some intake here on the absolute sides. The only thing I can see right here is on the side panel, these little plastic slits, and even then, they've further blocked it up with metal mesh in it. So you're getting almost no airflow. Now, it might be that if you thermally test this thing, because it's got a 240 millimeter all-in-one liquid cooler, it turns out okay, because at least it can get heat away from the CPU. However, I wouldn't take a gamble on it for $3,500. I don't know why iBuyPower just doesn't put this in a better case. Otherwise, these would be great specs for the price, frankly, and I would recommend it. But as is, no way. Just to throw in a couple of Intel options into this as well, let's go over to Newegg and with the ABS Gladiator. Now, ABS is Newegg's in-house brand for pre-built gaming PCs. This is the i9 10850K with an RTX 3080. Now, they use the term ABS Gladiator. There's a whole lot of PCs in this range. I'm going to show you a couple The links down in the description will simply reflect whatever one they have right now. They change this case often. They often change some of the other things. Overall, though, some of the things I like about this is that they're promising you a ASUS TUF Z590 motherboard, which is phenomenal. I love that they're getting away from some of those bad Z490 boards, and an EVGA RTX 3080 for the Win 3 card, which are like impossible to get. So this is a really good performer, all-in-one liquid cooler. I'm not going to go through all the specs because they do differ a little bit. Just know that if I've put it down in the description, I vetted it. I think it's a good PC. They're all roughly in this range. 1 terabyte M.2. This is for $2,800. That's about the typical price you're going to find for a 3080 PC. Although they have one here with an Intel i7-10700KF. Now, this comes with a ASUS Prime Z490P. That's actually one of the good Z490 motherboards, so I love that. They're using G.Skill Triton Z memory, 16 gigs of DDR4 3200. Absolutely fine. You know, in terms of the cable management, I would have done a better job than this. You can do a better job. Just take off the side panel, you know, unplug just run it differently so it looks a little cleaner. But it does come with an all-in-one liquid cooler on it, and these are airflow mesh cases. Again, this one is $2,700. There's a whole range of these PCs over there, and I will vet the ones and list them down in the description that I think are good. But if you're looking for an Intel option, these are very good. All right, so we're going to introduce our first OEM branded pre-built machine. Now, why would you get an OEM branded pre-built machine? Because there's pluses and minuses to this. The audience for this is somebody who's not going to want to repurpose this later and put it into a different kind of PC case, because I believe the motherboards on these are proprietary, the power supplies are proprietary, and the connectors between the motherboard and the power supply is proprietary. So that's kind of a bummer. But you can, of course, replace the graphics card in this. You can replace the memory. You can replace a lot of the other things in here. You just can't necessarily get it out of the case. So if you're the kind of person who just wants to get gaming, you don't care about all that nonsense, $2,100 gets you phenomenal performance with a Ryzen 7 5800. It's a non-X, very small performance difference, with an AMD Radeon RX 6800 XT and 16 gigabytes of memory. Now, the way I've spec'd this out, 512 gigs of solid storage space. You might want more than that. You can upgrade this, and we'll go down here really quickly. I would not upgrade the processor just for gaming. Ryzen 7 5800 is going to be more than you need. It's going to be phenomenal. You can, of course, upgrade the quote-unquote the GPU, but nothing they list is really an upgrade. I would stick with the 6800 XT if you're just gaming. Frankly, even if you're doing content creation, I think that's going to be fine. Memory, 16 gigs is fine. If you want to get into streaming at some point, streaming your gameplay and really get into it, I mean, as well as do some heavy-duty content creation, I'd consider going up $150 for the 32 gigs of memory upgrade. And then, of course, for $100, you get 50 more gigs of 500 more gigs of solid-state storage space. You can look at some of these options. I might upgrade it. You can always buy something on the aftermarket, open the side of the case, slide it in. I believe it has 2 M.2 slots in it, so you're good there. And of course, let's just go with the dark side of the moon. It comes with liquid cooling, and from what I've seen in the reviews of these things, and I've seen a number of them, they tend to be a little louder. So if you game with headphones, it's no big deal. Otherwise, just put the PC maybe under the desk, somewhere away from you. But people say it's not really that big a deal. It's only when you're hitting everything under super heavy load, not even usually gaming, but doing like benchmarks or high-end CPU tasks. Overall, for just under $2,100, this is going to be almost impossible to beat for the performance, and that's why OEM PCs for a certain segment of the audience are going to be attractive. Okay, let's drop down now to 1440p capable gaming PCs, and we're going to include a number of these. So the first one that I would take a look at that I would recommend is the Skytech Archangel. This is a really highly rated and really highly reviewed unit. It does have 3 exhaust fans on it with only 1 intake here in the front. However, I think that that's fine. It's a Ryzen 3600 along with a RTX 3060. These are not really high heat components, but if it bothers you, I would flip these fans on the top. I would just flip them around and have them be intake as opposed to exhaust. This comes with a B450 motherboard. These are not B550 motherboards. I think that's fine. You don't need PCIe 3.0 for gaming, especially at a graphics card level like an RTX 3060. There's no benefit of it whatsoever. 1 terabyte SSD. Overall, I think these are really good performers. However, if $1,850 is a little too rich for your blood, but you still want that kind of 1440p level of performance, you can look at the version of this that comes with the 2060. Now, the upshot of this is it actually comes with a better CPU cooler, which is the Wraith Prism cooler. It typically comes with a 3700X on it. I think that's phenomenal. Otherwise, the specs are exactly the same as the one we just looked at. This one just happens to go for several $100s less at $1,500. Okay, so now let's switch over to Newegg, and let me show you a couple of examples there of their ABS Master line of gaming PCs. Now, there's a whole bunch of different PCs that are in the ABS Master, and they rotate them in and out. So it's impossible to focus on any one, but a couple of things I would say is they tend to do a very good job on assembly. They tend to do a pretty good job on picking out the parts. They're very conscious about getting motherboards that are going to have good VRMs and things of that nature. So I feel pretty good about that. Some specific models as they lie right now, again, I will include links in the descriptions of the current ones that I think are good. But like an i7-10700F, this is probably going to be a B460M motherboard with an RTX 3060, 16 gigs of memory, and I can see it's got a tower style cooler to it. Yeah, I would buy this for $1,500, absolutely. The other ones that I would look at, if we come down to like maybe an RTX 2060 for about $1,200. Yeah, Ryzen 5 3600, RTX 2060. I wish the memory speed were a little bit better, like come up 200 megahertz, come on, Newegg. But 3000 megahertz memory is going to be fine. Actually, it's mega transfers, but we won't get into all of that. And it comes with, it looks like a B450 M motherboard. Off the top, if I was just looking at it, it looks like a Gigabyte D3SH or DS3H, there we go, motherboard on it. And listen, if you want something for ultra dirt cheap, the only thing I would avoid is I would avoid buying anything with a B560 motherboard, because some of the B560 motherboards, unless it says what the motherboard is, in this case, like for instance, it does not. It just says B560 motherboard. Does it even tell you what motherboard? No, it just says B560. Some of the B560 motherboards have problems, and I avoid them. This looks like it's an Asus TUF Gaming one, which is actually a good B560 motherboard. But again, the pictures are the pictures, and what you get might be different. Now we're going to jump into 1080p capable gaming PCs. We're going to start off with the Lenovo Legion Tower 5i. There's actually a couple different variants of the Lenovo Legion Tower. Now, while Lenovo is an OEM and they do get this stuff manufactured for them, the motherboard in this, because I've seen several reviews of these are standard ATX and micro ATX motherboards. You could actually take all of these components out and put it in an ATX case. And the power supply, while branded for Lenovo, it's an ATX style power supply. It doesn't have proprietary connectors, which is wonderful. It also comes in these really nice mesh airflow cases. So Lenovo is actually really doing it right here when it comes to pre-built gaming PCs. Now, there's a couple different versions of this. They kind of flop in and out of stock. One is a Ryzen 7 3700X with a GTX 1660 Super, and then that's currently out of stock as of filming this right now. I'm sure it'll come back in tomorrow or something like that. But in the meantime, just to show you this one, this is a i7 11700 F on it, and it's got a B560 motherboard. I told you avoid B560 generally, but Lenovo is manufacturing this motherboard, and I believe the power limits have been tested and they do okay. A couple of things I like about this: it comes with a tower style cooler. Again, seen a number of reviews on these that they all perform very well, and these coolers are, I believe that they're rebranded Cooler Master coolers, the tower coolers. Overall, phenomenal performer for the price, which in this case, I'll scoot this over so we can actually see what the price is for $1,150. The Ryzen 7 one typically sells for about $1,050, but these are the kind of specs you're looking for, and this is a good performer. Jumping over to Amazon really quick, some of the good 1080p capable gaming PCs here include the Skytech Shadow. This is a Ryzen 5 3600. This is very similar to some of the 1440p ones we looked at. in terms of the cooling on it. The only real difference is that it uses an A520 motherboard. You can't technically overclock the CPU. You can, of course, I believe, put it in precision boost overdrive, which is, all the overclocking really anybody needs to do anyway. You can tune the memory, although it does come with 16 gigabytes DDR4 3000 speed on it. But for $1,200, you're doing pretty well given the state of the current PC parts market, and this will get you into games like Call of Duty Warzone and others at medium to high settings in 1080p with a pretty good frame rate. Of course, if you are super cash strapped, you can still get a gaming PC that will kind of get you in the game that you could potentially upgrade later. And let's start off with, and these are going to be OEM branded because we're super cost savings here. $685 right now. These tend to fluctuate by $15, $25 every day. The HP Pavilion gaming desktop. This has a GTX 1650 Super, which is good. Now this is an HP 1650 Super, but the performance is still pretty good on it with an Intel i3-10100. That's a 4-core, 8-thread CPU. It only comes with 8 gigabytes of memory. That is one, I think, of the biggest challenges with it. Now, you should be able to upgrade this memory kit in the future with something that's 2666, or actually the speed doesn't matter. You plug it in, it's going to be limited anyway because it's going to be a B460 motherboard. But overall, if you just want to get into gaming, this is probably the minimum that I would look to spend, $685. And if you can come up to the $800, $900, I will include other good deals as they come. They tend to go quickly, so if you see something in there, jump on it. But this is about the speed you're looking for if you're super cash strapped. Remember, if you got value of the video, please give it a like. It helps out so much. I can't even tell you how much. YouTube loves that. And of course, join us. Subscribe, click the bell icon if you're not already subscribed. What did you think of some of these? Did you find a better deal? If so, put it down in the comments. Do you have questions? Put them down in the comments. I try and reply to everybody if I can. I don't always get you right away, but I do try and get you. And of course, happy gaming. Good luck. I'll see you on the battlefield, and I'll catch you on the next one.